Okay, guys, we're hitting you back. It's Charge and Hanger present Zoom the TBT, sponsored by the Dunk Camp. Come learn from the best in June, Salt Lake City. Happy to have them on board, and happy to have Keith Kelley, the GM of Team Arkansas, back for more. Keith, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Nice to meet y'all.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, thanks again, Keith, for jumping on. So just why don't we warm up a little bit with just your TBT history, how you got involved with TNT. I know you had a little history with Golden Boot before branching off and starting Team Arkansas. So tell us about your TBT ride.
Right. So I guess before I was a part of Golden Boot, I was a graduate assistant for a Division I school for University of Central Arkansas, a school that got a lot of love a couple of days ago from Michael Jordan, this Last Dance documentary. Or Scottie Pippen, home of Scottie Pippen. Anyways, I got reached out by a guy named Jeremy McNeil, who was the general manager of Golden Boot. He saw all that I was doing with social media, with marketing and promoting all that kind of stuff, and he kind of reached out to me and asked me, to work with this team. And at the time, I didn't really know too much about it. I do know that a previous TBT team had reached out to me via, wanted me to vote for them. I can't think of the name of that team. Yeah, I can. City of Gods in 2015-16. So I had heard about TBT. So I, decided to work with Jeremy and built Golden Boot to become the #1 team in votes for the 2017 team. And then we had a fallout. And then right after we lost in the second round to, oh my goodness, I'm trying to go back 4 years ago. I can't think of the team that beat us.
The Prodigal Sons.
Yeah, Prodigal Sons. A couple of days after they beat us, Nick Mason hit me up, and Nick is a former Razorback guard, kind of a bench player, didn't play a lot, but he reached out to me. He was like, "Hey, man, I saw what you did with that team. I've been trying to get a Razorback team going in TBT the last couple of years, but I haven't been able to, get the support." So I thought about it, I prayed about it, and a couple of weeks later, I reached back out to him and told him I was in. He said he had the guys, and he just needed somebody to promote it and all that. So me and Nick worked together, and then I kind of started just to reach out to guys myself on Instagram, just selling them the idea of winning, $200,000 and playing on primetime ESPN, and got some guys locked in. And, somehow Nick didn't get to make the trip down to New York where our Razorback team played the first year in TBT. So it was pretty much me, and I got a really good name, a Razorback guy, Pat Bradley, Arkansas's three-point king as a coach, and got, Dusty Hannis and Moses Kingsley and Jabril Durham, some big name Razorback guys locked in for that year. And then we ended up, winning the first round, falling in the second round to Talladega Nights. And that kind of really drew a lot of attention for some other Razorbacks that wanted to be a part of it, in the future. And then, of course, last year in 2019, getting upset by, I think, 17 points to the Louisiana team, that really hurt us a lot. We had 15 guys on the team, something that I thought that would help us, long term, not necessarily be a really big downfall for short term, but, really sad, really disappointed from last year. And from my perspective so far, that has really hindered us going forward. Guys, didn't necessarily get a lot of playing time, and they saw that and they don't want to be a part of it for some reason, which is dumb to me. But it is what it is, and we're going to do all that we can going forward.
Yeah, it's really interesting you bring up team roster construction, because we weren't really going to go there, but that's kind of funny because the 15-man roster, you see the way styles of play happen. I mean, I was in Richmond when the BCU Ram Nation used the entire roster to run that Havoc system. So trying to get a roster down in a manageable number is pretty interesting. Look at your team history. I mean, last year, falling in the first round hurt to Louisiana United, but then you were part of that complete bracket collapse in Brooklyn. I was actually there, because that's where I live in Brooklyn, over Tim Thomas, the number 10, and losing into that upset King team, Talladega Nights, which is one of the more hilarious upset stories in the tournament. But how do you guys see the roster construction happening this year? Because you mentioned having too many players. I notice currently you have 3 signed. So
right.
Where are you trying to go for the next to fill out your roster? What's a good number? What are you looking at?
I'm not trying to spend any extra money this year. I spent $2,000 or $3,000 last year out of home from just adding guys, that I thought were legit stars. We had, a guy that won the NCAA championship, Matt Jones, that had 1 or 2 points last year, and then Kayvon Allen laid an egg, and he was a star at Florida. So I'm going to go with 9. I don't want to see, too many guys, and it was just a mess last year. We had starters that were crying at halftime on the bench talking about not wanting to play anymore because, this is a mess, and it's just, that's too much. It's I was thinking, fastest 40 minutes of hell 2.0 is what I was thinking. 1994, Nolan Richardson, and it kind of backfired.
Yeah, no, sounds like a good key learning. And that's the thing about TBT. Some of these teams that have been really successful, it takes that 2, 3, 4 years to ramp up a team. So obviously going to slim the roster down a little bit to 9. And just looking at your game against Louisiana United last year, obviously a game you wanted to have back and get the W. So what kind of adjustments are you looking to make to the roster this year, aside from the size, to be able to compete with some of the top couple of seeds like Jackson and Louisiana United this season?
Yeah, for sure. I think our biggest hinder last year was having guys of different generations having different egos. Guys that wanted the ball, wanted to make a play, didn't want to make a pass, just wanted to do it all themselves. And you can't really do that when $2 million is on the line. You mentioned the 3 guys on the roster now: Josh Hagens, Tyrell Sturdivant, and CJ Getty. CJ's actually played in TBT the last 2 summers for the Rutgers alumni, and then Jimmy V last year, and he's got the experience. He's a 6'7" big. He brings a lot of size and athleticism and cardio to the team. And then Josh is a funny story. He was going to play 2 years ago, but I decided to go with Durham instead of him. And then last year he was going to go, and he had an injury. And he's a guy that, I don't know if you remember the 2016 March Madness. He hit all the amazing shots for University of Arkansas Little Rock against Purdue in that overtime thriller to upset Purdue. He's got a lot of Euro experience. He's going to bring something to TBT that you guys haven't seen from a Team Arkansas team, I believe. But just speaking about that, those are 3 guys that don't have any egos about them. They're not going to make any unselfishness plays or anything like that. And like I said, this we're a little bit after mid-April. We still got 5+ weeks to finalize our roster. We're gonna do our best to get those final 6 spots locked in with some non-ego guys.
It's really important when we talk team competition, having complete buy-in. I mean, being someone who is part of that region, being someone who's watched some battles between Arkansas, between Memphis, between some of those regional teams in the Mid-South, Ole Miss, some of these SEC games, remembering the Nolan Richardson years of that 40 minutes of hell, and hearing your dream of having that larger roster and playing that balls to the wall, full court press. How do you see the smaller roster affecting your ability to push tempo, to push speed?
I mean, every guy is playing professional overseas. I think 9 guys playing the style and the tempo and the game of TBT. I think that's going to be plenty. I don't think you're going to have guys winded with guys. I mean, obviously, if you would throw 9 guys out there that aren't playing professional basketball, but these are guys that are doing that all year long. Despite the coronavirus, these 3 guys are still staying in the gym. And I really think that's going to be a factor for not just the Jackson region, but for the TBT as a whole. How are guys going to show up and be cardio-wise and, basketball-wise, despite all this stuff going on and, hindering them not being able to get in the gym. I think that's going to be a challenge moving forward for not everybody, but for a lot of teams that you'll see.
Yeah, so let's jump back over to Jackson Regional. That's obviously where you guys hope to be playing this year. We already mentioned Jackson Underdogs and Barford had that amazing run last year. Louisiana United, a great history. But this looks to be a really deep region. Primetime Players has been around for a long time. I'm kind of intrigued by Super Crew a little bit. Andre Emmett team that's kind of forming. They look intriguing. Georgia State's rumored to have R.J. Hunter, 901. Possibly the Volunteers, possibly Alabama. So what are you looking at from that region right now? Are any teams really sticking out? Any new things to really look forward to?
I mean, I'm really looking forward to anything. Actually, it's funny because I've been talking to LD Williams a lot this offseason and Courtney Pilgrim, who won the championship with Ohio State last year, and then LD, obviously a Wake Forest star. I talked to both of them about playing, but they went their own separate ways. Everybody wants me to get Barford, and it's bigger than basketball. Barford's one of those where he's going to play with his family over, anybody else. And, speaking about all these other teams, I think it's going to be difficult for Tennessee and Alabama at first, being a first-year team. I think it's hard, until you get into TBT and see what it's like. Ohio State had a good run their first year, but it took them a couple years to get to be, where they are now. They're that team to be. And, Marquette, too, you look at that. West Virginia won a game last year, and then they stumbled in the second round to overseas. I think it takes, some of these alumni teams a little bit longer to get the, just the feel of things, just to get that, TBT experience. But like I said, like you said, it's shaping out to be a really good regional. You got a lot of really good teams. I know Chris Thomas with Prime Time. He's in and out of TBT, making deep runs each. I think he said every other year he wins at least 3, maybe 4 games into TBT, or maybe 2 or 3. I mean, he's that guy. He's the face of semi-pro basketball, the Hall of Fame semi-pro guy. So, and then Tennessee, Alabama, Jackson, of course, with Barford. Who knows? I mean, it's one of those regions that you just don't know. Last year it was the region of upsets. The 8 seed, the lowest seeded team won it. So you never know. And then obviously Louisiana, Brad Boyd, we became friends after they beat us and been talking here and there. I just saw a few minutes ago he signed Sean
Long.
Yeah, Sean Long.
He's a big boy, man. He's solid.
Yeah. So I mean, that goes to show that you never know who's gonna be next on this team or in the region either. So you never know.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great. I mean, the sort of camaraderie that makes this this event, because we're all big basketball fans, obviously, we're all big basketball guys. That's how this event has grown from such an organic way. Having one of the larger fan bases in that region, of that Mid-South region, as I sort of move my head in a simple way, how do you see the short drive helping you? Because, like, you're pretty close. I mean, everybody's pretty close to Jackson. It's in the region. And you guys can get your fans, and I know Arkansas fans are real passionate. So how does that, being close, I mean, being in Memphis was close, being in Jackson is not quite so, it's still pretty close. I mean, how can you guys just control? Can you guys just come to the gym and just take the gym over?
Yeah, I mean, we had a really good turnout last year. First year we were in New York, had a pretty solid fan base. It was just, some faraway fans or maybe fans that knew the guys or something like that. But last year we had a really good crowd. They're actually doing the Whoop History call right before tip-off, and that was really cool and got my blood flowing a lot. But, I know Mike calls and some of the other guys, they really fed off of that, and they really enjoyed that. And Jackson's only, 90 minutes away from Memphis, so that's not much further. It is from Fayetteville, but, Razorbacks have a really strong fan support and alumni base out of Memphis, which are probably more than willing to make that drive down to Jackson.
Got it. So learning a little bit about your team this year, sounds like this may be a rebuilding year for Team Arkansas. When I say rebuilding, kind of some of the core guys from the past year or two possibly up in the air, may not have back. So what are kind of your expectations for yourself and the team as you hit to 2020? Obviously putting the best product on the court that's available to you. But if you're rebuilding a bit, what's your best expectations?
Well, I feel like our backs to the wall because you can't get much worse than we did last year. So that's always, positive thinking and thinking for the best. But we haven't talked about much about this, but we got a really good coach lined out. I'm not going to say his name, but he's a really well-known guy to the Razorbacks. He's also a recent Arkansas assistant coach. And he knows all the guys well. He's a big-time guy. Actually works for the athletics department now, still to this day. But, just I guess our mindset and goals are just be the best we can and, do the best we can and see what can happen. It's college basketball that's – I'm going blank. I'm sorry. It's a game of basketball and just with professional athletes, and you never know what can happen if you play the best game you can.
Yeah, I mean, it's the great joys of event is anything can happen. I mean, Jackson themselves proved it. They were an 8 seed. In fact, when we were talking on our bracketology last year, we both gave you a pretty good seed, but we were thinking about the fact that, Jackson, we kind of got in almost on a grandfathering clause. Like, team history mattered. I mean, they weren't somebody that we even thought, at least I thought was on merit per se, just on the fact that they're a story. And then they came and got hot at the right time and wrote some moments. And that makes it really difficult to GM and scout these things. So, like, what is someone who is a fan of this event but doesn't really understand the inner workings, what is something of a difficulty of the GM? Like, what's the hardest or most rewarding part of being a general manager of a team in TBT?
The hardest part is going to be reaching out to the guys and not getting responses. Because, I mean, you can send messages and messages and messages, and if you don't know the right person, you're not going to ever be able to connect to that person. Just for example, Sonny Weems, 2 years ago, I connected with him on Instagram, and he basically told me he made, multi-million dollars a year in China, and he wasn't going to, risk playing in TBT. Well, now it's to the point where we're close to locking him up. So that's going to be that.
Oh,
is that a good old?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a big one. If you guys get Weems, oh my God, that's a story.
But I guess the most rewarding part would be the bracket celebration. You know, knowing that you put a team together that's good enough to win a game or games in TBT, and you know, just to take that moment into existence and to celebrate with the team that you've created. I mean, that's got to be the most rewarding part. And for me, you know, that's when we did it in New York and we had Bobby Portis show up, and you know, when we were in New York, I had no idea Portis was coming, and it's just, you know, his guys telling him that, hey, we're playing here at this time at this location, come out, and then next thing I know, I'm sitting next to Portis. So just things like that, some of these just surprise moments that you don't know about just because you're working with some pro athletes. So, I mean, it's just kind of cool to think about and say, like, hey, you know, 2 years ago we had Dusty Hennis on our team. 2 months ago, he was in the Memphis Grizzlies uniform playing for the Grizzlies and scoring on, you know, whoever. Seth Curry had that little layup or fake on Seth. So it's just stuff like that.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. And you kind of segued into one of our last questions before closing when talking about your most memorable TBT moment. So obviously that bracket celebration really hit home with you as part of Team Arkansas. But I still want to throw it out there because you got, like I said, a lot of experience with TBT as a social media coordinator with the Dynasty, Team Arkansas, and as a fan. I'm sure you tune into most games, even though your team may or may not be in it. So what's some of those kind of TBT moments that kind of stick with you when you think about the brand?
I guess one of them that sticks off in my mind the most would be Eric Musselman. Getting to meet him last summer, you know, it was before, you know, he even got to compete in any game. It was like maybe a month or two after he got hired. He, you know, allowed us to get in the gym, working with the guys, running up and down with the current guys. Shouted us out on Twitter. Got to meet Ronnie and Dontel and some of the guys. Well, Ronnie lives in town, but some of the guys that don't live in Fayetteville, he got to meet them for the first time. I know Marcus Monk was there, who's not one of our guys, but played for Arkansas basketball a couple years or several years ago. So that's one that sticks off the top of my head. You know, just getting a chance to interact with some of these big time guys like Bobby Portis and the coach that we got this year that I can't reveal just yet, and you know, Dusty and some of these guys. And I guess also just getting to hang out with Ronnie Brewer, getting to, you know, connect with him on a personal level more than basketball, getting to hang out with at his mansion that he's got in Fayetteville. He invited the whole team over last year and just to hang out, you know, kick your feet up and relax by his pool. Just stuff like that, getting to, you know, interact with the guys off the court. You know, Rodney Clark, a guy that's proved to be one of the, you know, most lethal scorers in college basketball and overseas in pro basketball. Getting to interact with them, that's got to be one of the most meaningful deals or interactions, I guess. Other than that, I will tell you this: in 2018, I had a 25% chance at winning $50K, and the way that the fan points are set up, me and a buddy went like we were competing like hard, super hard for this one fan. I can't remember the thing, but the way it was, you know, each person had that individual link and you send it out to people and you got points. Well, we worked together and we got a ton, like a crap ton of points. Like we were first by a ton. And I think the rule was at the time of the Final Four, you got to switch your team, but you lost like 50% of your points. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we did. And we went with Jimmy Fredette, and Jimmy lost us because we would have won a lot of money. But that's you know, the thing that I think about the most. I was like, man, like I had 20% chance at $50K.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, that, real quick before I send it in, but yeah, that was a fun part of the game, the fan piece. I was fortunate enough to win a grand the first year I did this back in 2016. My son won $500, so not 50K or any of those big numbers, but it is a pretty cool part of the tournament and just kind of watching, free to enter and just support a team and have some fun. So it's pretty spectacular.
Nothing to lose.
Yeah, I never won money. Again, we also show the reason why, but they keep not depending on the team. But no, it is a fun part. I mean, this event is so much fun. It's always interesting to talk to people like you, Keith, who are like, you know, really built their team over time and really been involved. So this is really what this tournament is about, people like you getting involved, really driving it through your passion and making this happen. So Keith, it was a real pleasure having you on. This has been a great conversation. We'd love to have you back on once your team solidifies a little bit more.
Thank y'all for having me.
Hey, man. Thanks a lot. Keith Kelley, GM of Team Arkansas.